Welcome back to Twisted Builds podcast for the third time tonight. How's it going?
Hey, third time's the charm. You can't knock it.
Exactly. Me and Kevin have been having technical issues. It's been a very long time since we recorded the last one, which we're going to see. There's a dog. Hi, doggo.
Can you see him? Where?
Yeah, he's fine.
Where is he at? Because I can't see him. Okay, yeah. Come here, buddy. Here, get up. No, other side.
Doggo.
Yeah, here. Get up here.
Hi, buddy.
Yeah, he can't hear you.
For our YouTube listeners or watchers.
He kind of looks like Scooby-Doo, but his name's Buddy. With a big old loving mutt. Okay, get down now. Okay, that's enough kisses. Yeah.
Oh my! So
speaking of listeners, we might have a new listener. I ended up touching bases with a guy that was a customer at my buddy Jonathan's shop, and he's big in like the electric vehicles, and he drives a Tesla. And he was in shush it, my little corgi chihuahua. I don't know if you can hear him growling. He's mad.
I heard him a little bit.
Hey, Benji. He's mad that the other dog got attention. He didn't. He's an old man. Nice. But anyway, we might have a new Benji. Shut your mouth. We might have a new listener. So if you're out there, I guess give us a thumbs up and whatever you're watching us on.
Nice. So hello. Yes. Yeah, and everyone, it depends on where you're listening, but the podcast is pretty much everywhere. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, we record this now. You're going to see some nice backgrounds. I haven't decided what they are yet. If you're on YouTube, they're obviously green screens. We're trying to up our production quality. Kevin has bought an amazing, phenomenal mic and sounds so nice now. And I've upped
at least it sounds good to you. I can't hear my own self.
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds great. And we just right before while we're recording this for the third time, I found that my internet speed was a little slow down here, so I got that all fixed. And we're gonna get right to it. And I've printed out the subjects this week, and I sent you a copy of them because
already. So I have a copy.
So again, we're gonna get back in the swing of things. I've said that a lot lately, but you and I have just had a crazy life.
Oh man, we are living the life of 10 people just between the two of us. I'll tell you that much.
Yes. So, do you want to skip the first subject we were talking about on the prior?
Yeah, that's fine. It's been a while since I threw that subject on there. I don't really remember why it was relevant that I threw it on there.
Okay,
so we can blaze over that.
We'll hop on to the next one, which I don't have the board down here. It just got in the mail, and I think it's upstairs. So I am working on my next subject is paying it forward, which when I first got into electrical coding, microprocessors and Arduino and stuff like that, I got into it, and I had a couple people. Josh Stewart of the Speeduino community. He's actually the one that created Speeduino. That's a massive shout out to Josh. He was phenomenal with walking me through some stupid questions getting into this. So massive shout out to Josh, and I've been wanting to pay it forward for a while, and I finally found an open source project that I can do that with. So Cody Rose, if you're listening, shout out to you. Hello. Me and Cody Rose are working on an open source project that he started. It's Delphi-Duino. I'm probably butchering that. It's a Delphi like P01 P59 ECU with a chip that you can. He originally was soldering the chips inside the case. Now it looks like it's going to be external, and I have one. I just don't have it here at the time of recording. So I'll toss a photo of it in the YouTube. So if you're listening anywhere and want to see it, go to our YouTube channel, Twisted Builds LLC on YouTube, and you can look at it during this video. But he's working to bring out the serial communication because those aren't Canbus, those are serial comms. He's working on bringing those out and making a boost controller with it, and wideband has a wideband controller on board, and pretty much all the stuff you would need for like a PO1 or P59 and kind of a swap vehicle all in one little neat area. So we're working on that, and I'm helping them with that um, for free. Like I'm not charging them or anything.
Mhm.
This is kind of like just giving back to the community. So, um, so yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I just like I massive again, massive shout out to Josh Stewart because like
Mhm.
you saved me from so much headache and code and. I had some stupid questions getting into this and stupid things with electrical stuff
Well, I mean,
that
you
he
don't know
kind of
what you
guided
don't know until you ask a question about it. So,
exactly. So, this is kind of my way of giving back because Speedo stuff's open source, and I figured I found another one that I could give back to, and I want to give back to the Speedo stuff. I haven't completely dropped it. It's just been with what I've been doing lately. I've just kind of shifted a little bit, but it'll come in time. There's a lot
Mhm.
going on. You're going to see that in the podcast. So, um, the I've got a new bench. I told you about this. I've got a new bench ECU power setup, and I'm actually going to combine a couple of these subjects into one. So, the new bench ECU setup is for powering. I saved 2012 Focus PCM from the scrap bin. It was an insurance claim, and the car was hit in that area. And the insurance company wanted a new engine harness and a new engine computer. And the old harness was like the harness going onto the computer was broken, and I actually had to cut the connector off of the engine computer to get use of it. So,
Oh goodness.
but I'll put a photo again on the YouTube video. I was able to do that, and I don't care if the ECU's junk. I just need it to power on so I can use it on my bench, and I've been able to
Mhm.
do that. So and I sent you a link to it. There's a cheaper. I think I got it off Amazon. I got
Are
the
you talking
link.
about
I keep yes,
the breakout box?
the
Okay,
ECU
yeah.
break.
So after you sent me that link last time, I went through everything that I have for Diag, and I already have one. So I forgot
Oh,
about it, but
sweet,
I found it. So yeah, it works
awesome,
for
perfect.
Canbus
Yeah,
breakout. Is it? Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yep.
using it for, and like it's gonna work for serial but like serial communication as well. So like the PO1 P59 for this Delphi Duno, I can power up a PO1 P59 here, or like I have a bench power supply, I can power it there too. I have a simulator that just got a program with a 24x wheel, and like I'll be able to bench simulate RPM input and everything into it, and then reverse engineer the code, like the broadcast outputs for the like RPM information, throttle position, stuff like that, and work with the Delphi Duino code and get that kind of going where it needs to go. So, but that PCU power supply is also for like the Focus stuff, or the Focus ECU is for this guy right here.
Ooh,
So
pretty.
this is a prototype. Design's going to change a little bit. This was just get everything on the like on a circuit board with quick connects. I'm gonna
And that
get
was
really
from
close to
the first video you sent me in the little list of videos, wasn't that? Okay. Yep.
yes. So this is the prototype for anyone listening or watching on YouTube. This is the prototype Twisted Builds Canbus logger. I am shooting to be the only one in the market right now that does all three versions of networks on a single board at the same time. So, this one has
As it sits right
like
now, it's pretty much all broken up. You gotta pick and pull and
two
piece your stuff
two
together for that.
yeah. So like
Mm-hmm.
for instance, there's a quick connect, and this has like there we go, screw terminal connections,
Mm-hmm.
and then you wire it up and pop it right in, and it'll connect right to the board. And that'll
Nice.
allow people to change the wires out so that way they can integrate. Like, I'll be sitting it with wires that have alligator clips on them. But if you didn't want to use that and you want to wire it differently, or have this in your car and just tuck it away, and then like use it again if you need to plug it in and go, you can. This design isn't finalized. There's two different things with this design. It's both computer based and SD card based. So FD CAN network for the new stuff. So we're talking 2020 and newer Fords, 22 and newer like Stellantis vehicles, I'm not sure on the GM. I'd have to look into the GM, but the later GM, they were moving to flexible data networks, and we've talked about this on the podcast before.
Mhm.
Um, so it has one inputs for those, which I guess this is power. It'd be one input for those, and then it has two regular Canbus network inputs, so the 2.0B and 2.0A standard inputs. So for any like Ford has medium speed CAN, Ford has high speed CAN. GM, you have GM LAN, which is technically a CAN bus, and you got
Mhm.
GM's CAN bus as well. You got the OB2 CAN bus. You have pretty much CAN bus on anything 2008 and newer. And this will, if you have multiple networks, you all want to log everything at the same time to reverse engineer it. This is going to do it all in one shot. And it also
Man.
timestamps. I've already been testing it. We've been working on the code, but it timestamps all the messages coming in as well. So,
Oh.
and two functions which are separate. You can have SD logging input. So right now, this is just a prototype board, but I literally soldered a button right onto the PCB,
Mhm.
so I can just turn it on and off, and it turns an LED on the microprocessor and indicating that you're SD card logging. And then you hit the button again to stop it, and it will
Mhm.
save up to 9,999 logs on the SD card, or until you run out of
Okay.
space.
Okay. So that 9,999 number, where's that coming
Yes.
from?
It's how I programmed it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like it's
That's
gonna
just like
start
the
with
largest you
and
could throw in that program, or
I can probably throw a logger, but
okay.
like you're probably not gonna need more than that, is my theory.
What if I wanted
I hope you're
10,000?
it all.
Exactly.
Well, I could make it happen if I really wanted to, but
Okay.
I think it's fine. But yeah, so you'd be able to do that, and it automatically saves the file. So like, it'll save like can data 0001, and it's coded to look at the SD card. If it already has 0001, it moves to 0002, and then starts a new recording, so on and so forth. That's all automated, and that's just
So
the
so
SD card side.
is that your sole prototype, or do you have some more that maybe you could send off to somebody
I got,
else to test? You got four?
so I got four of them. Two. I technically only have two currently. I have a board to make another one, and this design's already going to change. Like I've already found
Mhm.
stuff like this works. There's features I want to add to it and things I want to change about it. So I'll send you one of these if you want. I'd have to get the pieces in,
Absolutely.
but I'm
You know,
thinking
I, I still have
I think
I still
to
have
be
the
honest
box
with
in
you,
my
I think
truck of what I got
next
to send
version,
you. So
yeah. I'll be honest with you. You're probably going to want the next version because the next version of boards is going to get designed real soon. Now I know this works.
okay,
And I'll if you want to wait just a little bit, I'll send you the next version because the next version is going to be awesome. It's going to be a
okay,
lot better than this one. So this one works. Like this one, all the stuff works on it, but there's just little features I'm going to change about it. So, and we've only talked about SD card logging. We haven't even talked about the USB live logging. So me and
oh,
shout out to Sky Schmidt. He is working on the Windows program. He was the one that made the Windows program for the first Arduino based prototype. This one's not based on Arduino. I do use the Arduino IDE to code it, but it's not based on the Arduino chip because the Arduino chip was too slow. I almost said short, but it's not short. It's too slow. So it can't it had an issue even when I was working with FSD personally, not through Twisted Builds. I didn't realize until after I looked through the logs after I started filling with this that I didn't catch everything. Because the Arduino Mega chip's too slow. This guy has plenty of horsepower without an issue. Catches absolutely everything. And the USB logging side of it, again, Sky Schmidt's working on the program. We used his first program with this board already, and it worked ish. Coding on this has changed, so he's making a new program for this. The computer program for this sucker is going to allow you to go into the program and change the board settings. So, like, say for instance, you wanted to SD card log, but the speeds that this comes at natively aren't correct for your vehicle's CAN bus speeds, right? Like the baud rates. You can connect this
okay,
to your computer, change the settings, save the settings onto the board, take the USB cord out, take it to the car, do SD card logging. Or with
Okay,
the
so there's no
program.
like entire firmware flashing that needs to take place for that. It's
Correct.
just a
It's
set.
all we're going.
It's nice.
It's just gonna be a setting. We're gonna save it in EEPROM, so that way, like you can depower or whatever, it's gonna remember it and it's gonna be good to go. And that's if you're setting it up to SD card log. If you want to do live logging, we'll have just a massive dump. It'll be a CSV file, so you can bring it into your like Excel or Google spreadsheets or whatever, and you can reverse log that way. That's how I've done it in the past. That's kind of how I recommend doing it. You can also, so that's just a live dump of everything. You'll be
Mhm.
able to live monitor individual messages with this thing, and it automatically populates what messages are on the network, and then it'll allow
Okay.
you from the drop down menu to grab that message. So, say for instance, you're looking for throttle position, and you want to check it live on a live car. You hook this
You
guy up to
could
the CAN bus.
just choose that out of the data.
You can choose that
Okay.
one message and hit the throttle and just look for the change in pit. Now, also, you're fighting load PIDs as well, so like the throttle has a lot of input, but you kind of get what I'm talking about, where you can
Yes. Yep.
set one individual message ID and you can watch it and watch for the data change, and then you can figure out, say, like these three have, well, take TPS for example, these three have that data change. You can from there figure out which one of those three is actually TPS data and what the other ones might be like load output or load requested or stuff like that. So,
Man, that's crazy. It would are you designing into that board any sort of output that it can do if it sees a certain let's say a threshold in something that you're looking for?
so it's possible. Not wasn't
Okay.
my plan. This is going to be more of a logger.
Okay, okay, okay.
Gateway module stuff. Gateway module stuff is coming. That's kind of what you're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay.
So this is going to be the tool to figure out what's going on a vehicle's Canbus network and get all the data you need. The next
Beautiful.
one coming out is going to be probably a gateway module, kind of like what I did with that RAM, and where I used a tool similar to list. It was actually slower than this. To figure out what was going on, and then I built a different module to actually replace the transmission control module.
Hmm.
I plan on bringing out a gateway module, and they're going to be kind of specific. There's so much stuff going on that, and it's all very unique, that
Hmm.
a lot of this is be like for bespoke work or one-off stuff, but some of the stuff that's going to be generalized I do plan on bringing gateway modules out for as well. So like
Okay.
polyterminator X onto, say, like a later like 2010 Silverado, and you want everything just to work. Like, I'm gonna have a plug and play deal where you can just take the engine computer out of it, put in a gateway module, and nothing's gonna be the wiser.
Oh, that's awesome.
If
Oh
if I
goodness.
don't do it, like, if and this is coming back to, if I don't end up doing that and someone else does, this tool will allow you to get the data you need to do
Mm.
that. It's also going to allow you to
Okay.
get the data you need to do a lot of repair work.
Hmm.
So
So that really
that's how I'm
brings you freedom on stuff that you own yourself.
exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it'll get you the data you need. And again, like, I'm future proofing it, as at least as of time of recording. Most of the new stuff coming out is coming out with FD networks. Like FD for Ford is 3 years old at this point. FD for Stellantis is like 1 or 2 years old. So it's fairly
Mhm.
new compared to, we were using CAN bus back in 2008 from there forward. And we're
Mhm.
still using CAN bus in a lot of modern vehicles, but the higher speed stuff's moving to FD. So again, that'll allow you to data log everything you need and get the information you need to do whatever you want.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
coming. So, and again,
You're
I think
you
the next
you
revision
really
will
are over my head with a lot of that stuff. I get the gist or the meat
yeah,
and potatoes out of a
yeah.
lot of it, but man, some of those nuances you go over my head fast.
So, and the great thing about this is going to be like, if you want to make your own module, you'll be able to do that. If you want to, and like, say for instance, you're using I wouldn't say open source, but third party software like Real Dash, which is like
Mhm.
iOS or Android app that's out there for making your own dashboards, and you want to make a file for Real Dash to take the CAN network speeds from your own car and display them on your dash. Like,
Mhm.
that's completely legal, and you'll be able to do that with this guy to get the data you need to do it.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I'm sold.
yeah,
I'll tell
so
you that
that's
much.
and I didn't even mention like the I'm gonna make more of the next version, and you will get one of those. I promise you.
Okay.
The next version is gonna like say for instance like I'm sorry I know I'm taking over the podcast with this, but I'm really
Oh
excited about
no,
it.
man.
So you see right here where I've got jumpers. I don't know if there we go. So I've got jumpers right here. So those
Yes.
are terminating resistor jumpers. I'm actually going to switch those to dip switches. So that way it's instead of having to physically put a jumper on there that you could probably
You
lose
just
and
flip it
use,
over. Yeah.
flip a switch. It'll be a flip a switch over. I'm also going to add, so I've got a 120 ohm resistor for each network currently. I'm actually going to add a second one, and there's a reason behind that. So most Canbus networks at the end of the network have 120 ohm resistance to keep the network integrity correct. I'm going to and like this is set up to where, say for instance, you're logging a PCM on a bench. By the way, if anyone's watching the YouTube, he's setting up his
Yeah. If you
camera
see
because
me
it
doing
has an
hand
auto.
gestures, yeah, it automatically connects to my face with the little AI tracker. So
I
I'm just
just saw
disabling that.
that. Yeah, but anyway, so um, say for instance you have a PCM on your bench and you want to check this stuff on your bench because you have a bench simulator to simulate inputs that like your engine would do on your PCM and you want to get CAN data off of it. Right
Mhm.
now, like the PCM has a 120 ohm resistor in it normally. Most manufacturers, the PCM's a terminating module, and then you'll have another terminating module. Lately, it's been the gateway module. Sometimes it's different. You'd have to look at your specific vehicle's wiring diagram to figure out which one's the module. But anyway, you could have a module on your bench that you're trying to get data off of with this guy that has a 120 ohm resistor, and this was fine. You can just pop a chip right or like a jumper right here, enable this board's 120 ohm resistor. Now you got 60 ohms resistance on the FD network or Canbus network going into it, and
Mhm.
everything's gonna talk. Now, say for instance you're getting um, a radio from a vehicle. That radio, a lot of the radios don't have a terminator resistor on it. They're going out to the network, but they don't have a terminator resistor on the board. But you
Mhm.
have it on your bench. Instead of getting sloppy with adding like two 120 ohm resistors or 60 ohm resistors on your bench wiring to get this thing to talk, wouldn't it be nice if your logger just had two switches where it had 120 ohm and
Just
120
one
ohm
to that, one to this. Yep.
and make it 60 ohm
Uh,
resistance, make it talk, and then you can do everything right on the bench.
mhm. So those values are those basically the standard resistance
They are the
values? Okay.
Yes. So each end of the network's 120 ohms resistance. Combined, it makes 60 ohms across it. So,
Mhm.
tech tip for anyone listening to the podcast and wants to get into network diagnostics. One of the very quick checks, like if you run into a vehicle that has an entire network down, the first thing I always do is check what we call network integrity, which is CAN bus high and low. So you have pins. On stuff that doesn't have a gateway module. So like before, like I don't know, 2017, 2016, um, you could take pins 6 and 14 on your data link connector. They're normally canned or connected to CAN high and check those for resistance. If you got 60 ohms resistance, you're probably good. You can check for resistance or shorts to high or like 12 volts or ground. But if
Mhm.
you got 60 ohms resistance there, the network's probably good. If you got 120 ohms resistance there, you got an open somewhere to your
Yeah, something
terminating
else
module.
is broken. Yep.
If you have no resistance, you have a lot of open. So,
Yeah.
and then you can go find it. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
you had
as I said,
shrapnel go
I,
through some sort of wiring in that case.
mouse, whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the new modules coming out are going to have dip switches down here, and they'll be accessible. So my plan is once I put this in a housing, I'll probably have a cover of some sort that comes up, or have the dip switches exposed. Again, this is a product that's getting developed currently, but you'll be able to go in there. They'll be labeled, and you'll be able to flip the switches up or down to add the terminating resistance you need to just give the module on your bench, like your ECU bench tool, the resistance it needs to communicate to this guy to get your data, or the scan tool,
Beautiful.
or whatever.
Mm.
Yes. So very, very excited about this because I know there's nothing on the market that's gonna like there are can don't get me wrong, there are CAN loggers on the market currently. You can get one logger for FD, you can get a logger that'll do one Canbus regular, you can get a logger that'll do two Canbus regular. No one's combined them all. No one's packed in with these kind of features. No
Mm.
one's purposely built a logger specifically for recording automotive environment CAN bus stuff for reverse engineering. So it's
Mhm.
going to be the first of its kind. So
Mhm.
it's going to be geared towards gearheads,
That
nerdy
is,
gearheads, but gearheads.
yeah, nerdy gearheads. I know some gearheads that they don't understand any sort of wiring, and they're still the whole
Yes,
carburetor distributor guys. But
which there's nothing
they
wrong with
consider,
that. But
yeah, they're considering themselves gearheads too. But so yeah, nerdy gearheads, I
yes,
think, is a good label.
yes. So I know I probably just tangented down that rabbit hole, but I'm super excited about this.
Well, I've already
So
learned a few things, so I mean, don't apologize for tangenting.
So anyone listening, this is actively getting done, and a massive shout out to Sky Schmidt. He is killing it with the Windows program. Like every time he shoots me a screen, like a new screenshot of what he's doing, I'm just all smiles because this is gonna be amazing. I am so excited for this and what it's
Mhm.
gonna bring out next in development. So but yeah, oh, pricing is we're figuring right now. Like I'm far enough along where I can kind of price it. I don't have the I'm going to do a master class as well. So the unit itself without the master class, we're planning on doing 309.95. So $309.95 for the unit complete. It'll come with the wiring you need, like the alligator clip wiring and all the connectors for this guy. And it'll be ready to go. Come with a USB cord, stuff like that. All the stuff you're gonna need. You'll have to supply your own SD card because some people are gonna want to like log all kinds of data. So we won't
Mhm.
supply the SD card. You'll have to get one, but it's a
No,
regular micro
just
SD.
go ahead and go on Alibaba, and you'll get a few thousand of those 1 terabyte SD cards, and then you'll just send those out free with everybody.
Oh my word. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Like I like to say like even like the one in this right now is a PNY, which seems to be a decent brand. But
Mhm.
anyway. But yes, that is the plan right now, and it's still in development. But
Do you
we're
have to
that is the
format them
part we're
to? Do you have to format the SD? Is it FAT32 or what's a standard
fat,
that you're using
fat
for?
32 or fat 32 or EX fat. It's not going to matter. I've tried both
Okay,
already,
gotcha.
so try
Cool.
to keep as long as it's not like NTSF, which most people don't do SD cards NTSF anyway. NTSF's more like for operating system stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's going to be relatively straightforward. Should be plug and play, and just use it. The program is only going to be supported on Windows, so if you want to use like this with a Mac or whatever, we're not going to be supporting that out of the gate. Maybe in the future, but right out of the gate, it will be just Windows based. But yeah,
Mhm.
so it's coming. Um, Super excited about it.
Well, to be
But
fair, to be fair, if you're using Windows anyway, you're just going to be paying somebody else to do your stuff for you. So, or I'm sorry, if you're using Apple, you're just going to be paying somebody else to do something for you anyway. So,
exactly, that's kind of my thought here too. But
yeah,
all right. So the next topic I had was you went out for training at Titans of CNC in Texas.
yeah. So I'm actually repping their shirt right now. Woo! For anybody
Yes,
that can
I
see,
see.
that was unbelievable. I'll tell you that shop environment is something to
Probably
envy.
eat off the
So,
floor.
oh man, it's really awesome. The amount of knowledge that I've got from just walking in that shop and spending roughly 8 hours with the guys there is just awesome. And meeting the people that I've seen like the last year or 2 years, just chronically on
Yes.
YouTube and on Instagram in the machine shop industry, and get a put my hands on the machines that they have. Some of their EDM stuff is amazing. Some of their additive manufacturing stuff is amazing for some metal 3D printing. But
Additive.
meeting
Okay.
Titan, meeting Titan's family, just basically all the employees. Barry there is awesome. Uh, it's just amazing. So I'm actually now certified. So I went there and did like the little 1 day class with them, or one.
Yep.
I don't know. It depends on how many hours you get. So I'm actually now an instructor for Titans of CNC
Okay.
and an inspector. So if anybody listening
Nice.
is wanting to do their own CAD models or their own machining, send me what you
Hmm.
have when it comes to the hard part that you machined, and I'm actually able to inspect that for you on behalf of Titans of CNC. So I'm actually certified
Oh,
now as an
nice.
inspector for them, to say yes, you did this part correctly, or no. Go back and look at, let's say, chamfers, or go back and look at hole diameters, or
Okay.
pockets, or pocket depths and stuff like that. So I'm actually able to give feedback to those people wanting to get certified through Tides of CNC, and it is just that
Nice.
is. So I spent, I think, a 4 day weekend down in Texas,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I had a little hotel down there. Brought my kids, saw my some of my family down there in Texas that I haven't seen in a while,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was just a wonderful 4 day weekend. but
Awesome.
the highlight of that was definitely the Titans of CNC shop, and it is, like you said, pristine. You could eat off the floor. They run that
Yeah.
place unbelievable. I don't know how many videos that you've seen of that shop, but it's
I not.
everything that
Sorry.
you can imagine, and then tenfold that. It is that
Oh,
good.
geez. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I've watched some of their stuff on YouTube, but it definitely intrigues me.
Mhm.
And like every time they like pan out and you can see the shop environment, it's like you could eat off the floor. I have no doubt.
Yeah,
Like it's
absolutely.
literally pristine. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, the
awesome.
only thing that kind of irked me a bit was some of the other people kind of going through the class. There were certain rules when it comes
Okay.
to being invited into that shop. So there's certain stuff you can't take video or picture of, because they're an active shop. They're not just there for social media.
Yes.
No, they're making
Yep.
SpaceX parts. They're making I think they made some
Yes.
Blue Origin parts. They're making parts for actual customers uh,
Hmm.
that don't really want their intellectual property out there. And there were
Yes.
so many. I'm going to say probably a third of the group of people that went through that, just not respecting that, and that irked me a little bit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, like, they told you not to take pictures of that, and you're over there with your cell phone snapping selfies with the stuff. And like, they had to intervene with a few people. Like, hey, no, Joe, don't you? It's okay. You can take a picture of that. Just don't share it anywhere, man. Like, that's actual property of somebody else that you're sitting there taking pictures of. But that's
Yes.
the only thing of that whole experience that irked me, was just some of the other people that were invited in. But like, as a whole, that place is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Nice.
And
That is
they're actually
awesome.
they're still adding. I got to talk to I believe his name's Russell. Whenever you go on
Okay.
the Titans of CNC website, you get a little menu that pops up that says, "Hey, how can I help you?" You know Clippy. I don't know if you remember Clippy from like
Yep.
the Windows back
Yes,
in the
I
day, like a
remember
little pop
Clippy.
up.
Yep.
Hey, how can I help you? Yeah, well, there's actually somebody
Yes.
behind that on their website, and it's usually I believe his name's Russell. And I got to talk to him, and he works a lot with the back end of the website, and
Okay.
I was able to pitch him a few ideas of what I thought the website can use, and it's like a continual evolution thing with what they want to implement. And they actually took a few of my ideas and put that on the wall. So they're going to be working towards some other stuff on doing some changes to their website,
Nice.
just on my input. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Yep.
Like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's awesome.
Yeah. I learned a lot from them.
That's I'm sure that is one heck of an experience.
Yeah, throw up. I
That
don't know if I
is
sent you that picture, but I'll send you that picture if you need to. Throw that up. That was a
yeah,
good picture that I took with Titan.
yes.
Yeah.
Send that photo over on our Discord, and I'll definitely get it up there
Okay.
for sure.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, that is awesome.
It's really,
That's awesome.
I got to hear a lot of inspirational stories from some of the other people that were brought in to go through that training course.
Okay.
And very inspirational of people that haven't really been in the manufacturing industry their entire lives, and then they saw what
Hmm.
Titan was doing, and they decided to jump into it, and now they're exploding. So it's really getting me to where I want to get my shop going, and I have some equipment. I have a roof that I can throw over a little bit of my equipment. but like I want to expand now. Like my dreams are just way more than what I can
Yeah.
accomplish right now on what I want to start. I'm already looking at getting some
Heck yeah.
machines financed, and that's probably
Nice.
3 to 5 years in the future, but maybe a little bit sooner. We'll see what happens.
There you go. That's gonna be great.
Yep.
Okay. Next subject I've got is new tires on. We talked about this. New
Mm.
tires on the tractor and getting started with starting fluid after rebuilding the distributor.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm guessing
So
this
that's
is the big old tractor with the loaded tires.
this is the wheel dozer. I guess the
Yes.
old Minneapolis Moly. I don't know how much I've talked about it on the last podcast, but it's still sitting in my yard. So I got
Oh,
new front tires for it. Uh, the funds that were used for the rear tires were used up elsewhere, and that kind of segues
okay.
into a new vehicle purchase that I happened. But the rear tires, they
Yeah.
were running about $1,100 a piece, and I've kind of taken the money that I was going to use to get the rear tires of that tractor, maybe fix up the rims a bit because there's some holes in the rims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still working in
So
progress. It runs. I rebuilt the distributor. It runs off starter fluid. It puffs and pops and everything
nice.
else. Timing's not exactly right, but I'm not going to go ahead and perfectly set timing off of using
It's
starter
fine for
fluid
right now.
through a propane carburetor. I'm not going to really set
Yeah.
timing and just call it good. I'm going to wait till I get the gasoline carburetor, and it's a
Yep.
direct bolt up, and then yeah. So that tractor, the
And
progress is still moving on it. It's going to be awesome next spring. I'm going to be working on it all through the winter, but with that big old 8-foot wide blade on it, it's going to be moving some. I want to say dirt, but it's going to be moving some sand. And I've already on the back end, I've got 2 trailer loads, full trailer loads of some used tires that I'm using for around my property as a retaining
Okay.
wall. So I'm going to use like a packed earth
Nice.
inside of a tire derived cylinder, I guess is the exact name for like the eco-friendly people were using tires. But it's gonna be moving some dirt next year.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I'm guessing the money to fix the rear tires was used on a 2500.
It was on the 2500.
Okay.
So
That's our next subject.
my neighbor had a few vehicles, and he was looking at either parting them out or getting rid of them whole, and I was about to pull a trigger on purchasing an engine and a transmission and maybe the rear axle out of a 04 2500 HD.
Okay.
And it turns out he sweet talked me into just getting the whole truck because it's way easier to do anything swapping stuff in and out if you have the whole thing complete running. So all the funds that were used for the tractor are now going for this 2500 that has an 8.1 liter V8 in it with the optional Allison transmission. So they came, as far as my knowledge and the research I've done, they all came with manual 5 speeds from the factory. You had to physically order the option for the Allison.
Awesome.
And it actually has the Allison in there. I think it's the 1000 series. And I would really like to bring a transmission controller to market for that. I did a lot of looking. It's all electronic controlled. It's not kind of half and half like a 4L60. And it seems doable from the wiring diagrams I was able to pull off, and the fluid circuits that run through solenoids. I think it's really easy to be able to pull off a transmission control module for those.
What year is that truck?
It's an 04.
04. Okay.
04.
So should be probably P59 ECU. So
I'm gonna have to double check, but I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't gone out and looked at it. So I've kept myself from going out and exploring it until he has all the money in his hand for what I'm paying him for it, because I don't want to start parting it off. And he basically said, "Yeah, you can go ahead, just do what you need to do. Just make sure I have what you're paying me for it." Like, by next month, first of the month, it's going to be fully mine. And I've been keeping myself from going out there and exploring it too much.
Nice.
But yeah.
So we'll have to look, because you're not the first one about the transmission controller, right? And I'm thinking that's
For the
going to be
Allisons or
next.
just transmission controller in general?
Period.
Okay. Okay.
Because I'd like to make kind of a universal deal where it's not just like the Allison or not just a 480E or not just a
Mhm.
460E, where it's like it you can use that module, like again, like that circuit board, kind of like this logger, which this is kind of different, but you could set it up to where all the stuff you should need for a lot of transmissions is just on here, and then it's just a change of programming.
Mhm.
So we can like support a wide range of stuff and
Mhm.
have Canbus support and
Mhm.
possibly serial support and like for serial GM like ECUs and stuff like that or whatever,
Mhm.
or whatever. But yeah,
Mhm.
integrate it
I
with a
need
Holly
I need
Terminator
to do
X.
some more exploring with my because I have the '07 Ram 1500 that's LS swapped, and I believe so. Like, there's some CAN bus going on through that, through some AC, through some dash work for the gauge clusters and stuff. And I
Yep.
really would like to get all my gauges to work and my AC button to work how it should with
It's
my
it's
rigged up AC.
easier. It's easier when you have a bone stock truck that you're starting with.
Mhm.
So, but there's probably other ones out there where we could get our hands on a stock one and record how it functions
Mhm.
and then do it. So, like, that's something else that tie back into the whole Canvas thing for customers or listeners of this podcast or viewers of this podcast. If you already have a modified vehicle and you're trying to make the Canvas stuff work, realistically, you probably should have started recording beforehand. However, if you can get your hands on another vehicle that was just like yours that's still stock, you can use one of these guys to record what you need because you're mimicking what the factory did. Is all you're trying to do. Like you need to figure out the data so you can mimic what the factory did, and then if you need to take in other data, convert it, and then output it with what the factory like electrical modules need to see on the network, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So
So,
very much
what are
man in the middle.
with that? Is there any option there? Because I know a lot of people that are going to be able to purchase that and wire it up, and then have no idea what the data is saying. Is there anything that? Or, okay, so I see that
So
smile.
that's where I didn't talk about it much, but that's where the master class is going to come in.
Okay, yep,
So I
that's where
I
I was
don't
leading
have
to a little bit.
I don't have a price on the master class. I'm going to be doing the master class. It'll be worked examples. I've got a very good idea of what I want to do, and it will be within the right to repair and like everyone's going to be happy type situation. Because again, this information can be used for good, it can be used for others. So,
Mhm.
anyhow, uh, skirting around here
Yeah,
a little.
yeah.
But anyway, my plan with my work example is I could probably do this with multiple vehicles, and I plan on doing it with multiple vehicles. The first one will probably be my own Fiesta because it has CAN bus. Second one will probably be with like a Toyota RAV4 because it has CAN bus. And what I would love to do is set them up because Real Dash takes CAN bus inputs as long as you program them that way, and will display the inputs on your dash. I think those would be perfect work examples because all you're trying to do is get the data off the network to display on a digital dash screen that you want to integrate in your car somewhere to have other data that your instrument cluster doesn't put out natively.
Let me know, because I know my little brother, he'd be willing to. He has, I think, it was a 2012 Chevy Spark, and there's
Okay.
all those options. With he has the non-turbo version because I guess there was a turbo and a manual
Yep.
option. I think it was in that Spark. Anyway, but if you're wanting any sort of logs from that, I'd be happy
Yep.
to ask him, and I know he'd be happy to just kind of throw you some whatever that stock vehicle is doing, just to do some
Yep.
teaching with or some reverse engineering with.
Yep. I would definitely be down for that because right now I've got access to all kinds of vehicles for doing this with. But yeah, so like a lot of it, the master class is going to go over heavily. But a lot of it is getting your hands on a factory vehicle, or if you're planning on building your own vehicle to do something crazy with it, getting the data off your
Start
vehicle.
early.
Rock.
on pulling the data off. Yep.
Yep. That way you have all the data you need to move forward with your build or get the data into the hands of someone that can make the stuff for you to get, the product moving while you're doing the build or so on and so
Mhm.
forth. Because I do think, like, I would like for Twisted Builds possibly to get into some of the bespoke work, like the one-off stuff, because it is a blast.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there's that. I'm
Yeah.
tangent. I know. I'm just all. We also talking about products from Twisted Builds. Um, I've dropped the ball. Everyone listening, this is my fault. You've had the stuff for me to get on the website for a while now, and I just haven't done it because of
So
personal.
not all of it. So I haven't sent you. I did finalize, if this is what we're talking about, the material rack.
Okay,
Uh,
that was one of them.
is that
Yes,
what we're talking about? So
yes.
I have not the assembly instructions. I do have a full setup. I need to go ahead and throw up on the drive to give to you to throw with the prints.
Awesome.
But
Oh,
that's on. Yeah, I have one that I have not. I've been lazy. I haven't given that to you
you're good.
yet.
It's a mix of we've all been busy, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things now that my life's getting a little more more settled down. But yeah, I'm not going out of town so often anymore. But yeah, so that and did we make the other thing public yet? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we made it public. We haven't. So I've actually done a few more iterations on some details of that too.
You're talking about
Uh,
the
the
engine stand for
the
anyone
engine run
listening.
stand, yes, yeah. So I think we're on the third version,
Okay.
maybe the second. I don't know. Anyway, if it is a second, it's almost to the third with the amount of iterations that I've done on certain parts of the engine run stand. So we really tweaked. I think between me and you, we got a good design for the radiator
Yes.
mount to basically throw any sort of radiator you have
Yep.
at this engine run stand to basically allow it to run with whatever vehicle you have with whatever radiator you pull out of
Yes.
your shed or your garage at the time. That is not something that you need to buy specifically this part number from this
Yes.
other company
It's gonna
to
be
use with
a
us.
universal
Yeah,
fit.
yeah, pretty universal. It's awesome. I've redesigned some shelves that are
Okay.
going around the sides and the back, and I have not talked to you about this yet, but the trays that come from Harbor Freight, I have now
Yes.
based a new design that you don't have. The trays that go in the toolbox or the toolbox drawers to organize stuff. One of
Okay.
these is it's quite long, not as wide as it is long, but it's set up in 4 trays with 4 pockets. And I think that'd be really great to have basically on the side of like an engine if you're doing some valve train work, especially on a V8.
Yes.
Well, you got 4 pockets, so you can do push rods and bolts and rocker arms and stuff like that. And that's a perfect tray to be able to incorporate into this engine run stand. So I'm redesigning one of the trays to fit the footprint of those
Okay.
Harbor Freight little plastic dividers that you, not really dividers, but those little organizers that you slip in your toolbox drawers. I was
Awesome.
like, well, that's good. So you can have it on the size of what you need, or you can go get a organizer and then you can throw it on there, or we might
And
throw
then
them up
keep
and
everything
throw one
organized
with.
and
But yeah, yep. And I thought
awesome.
specifically on valve trail. Oh, there we go with the little
Here we
AI
go.
tracking again. I did the little OK symbol and it's tracking me now. Um, I did that specifically kind of looking toward valve train stuff because I don't know how many times I've dug into valve trains and I've had nowhere to put the stuff. Or let's say push
Yes.
rods. If you really, really, really want to be meticulous about it and you want the same side of the push rod going in the same hole that it came out of with the same side up going right
Mhm.
back in when you assemble it back together. If you're
Yes.
really particular on the wear patterns, let's say on the push rod to the rockers or the push rod to the lifters, well, you can go
Mhm.
ahead and set it up with one of these trays. So
That's gonna be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And which will be
There's some more
awesome for
iterations.
like some of the like the older stuff where you're taking like stuff apart to like torque the heads down again once you get them up to temp and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's gonna
Yep.
be perfect.
Yep.
So awesome.
Yeah, there's been some iterations of that design. I don't think I've got you. I don't know. I've thrown a print up on our drive, or
Okay.
not a print, but a 3D model. I think I did some
Okay.
step files and some SolidWorks files and stuff like that. Material wise, so I thought I had acquired a
Hmm.
good amount of material to do a full prototype build of the material rack and of the engine run stand, and it's not coming out how I thought it was when it comes
Okay.
to acquiring that material. So I'm going to have to reach out to actually a company and do all this stuff separately from how I was doing it earlier. But we
Got
should
it.
have
I'm
a
following you.
yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I'm trying to speak around some stuff, but
Yep.
yeah, we should have a good at least one or two prototypes. I'm gonna go ahead and send you the material so you can get yours together and have the
And I'll
stuff that
make
we need a
sure
third
we'll
partied and
yep, we'll video it as
yep.
well, so that way YouTube and
Yeah.
everyone sees how it
Oh,
goes
it's going to
together.
be so good. I can tell you the amount of, I wouldn't say labor hours, but just man hours in intellectual design and researching the market of what's currently out there and bringing in the best of the best from absolutely everything into this one engine run stand. It's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good.
I'm
It's going
excited.
to be
This is
modular. You're going to be able to fit almost absolutely anything on it. It's going to be able to hold a weight from a little 4-cylinder Honda to maybe an inline 8 diesel. So we're going to see what's going on
oh yeah.
here.
It's
Yeah.
like I've seen the designs and they are beefy. Like this is gonna be
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm looking forward to it because I would like I have a different run stand I haven't put together yet because I've been pretty busy. But with a lot of the electrical stuff that Twisted Builds is coming out with, it would be awesome to have a run stand where I've
Mm-hmm.
got extra LSs. I can just toss an LS on this run stand.
Yeah.
A, we can
You
show the
and
run
me
stand.
both, man.
B,
You
yeah,
throw something around my property and you're hitting something else.
but yeah, be able to test run LSs before I pop them in vehicles. I'm thinking the S10. And also like test electronics on a running engine. Like you
Yep.
can bench them a lot of stuff, and that's great. But sometimes you just need to check it on something that is live on use to make sure. And like having a run stand like that would allow us to do that. So and
And
our
we
customers,
learned that kind of firsthand back and forth on some of that 4.2 stuff back in the
yes,
day. So to actually have like, in theory, it may seem actually perfect, but when you go actually and run it on an engine, it might not be
not
what
work right.
theory's telling you it is. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. So, and having a run stand, and not again, we're talking kind of like us, but our customers too. Anyone that would buy this run stand, like you'd be able to do the same thing. You'd be able to test your
Mm-hmm.
equipment, test new products, test the motor before you spend all the time putting it in a chassis and find out that there's something
Yeah.
wrong. Like you wouldn't have to take it to an engine dyno to start it up and run it and stuff like that. You'd be able to do it
Mm-hmm.
at your own facility to run it before you, excuse me, pop it in.
And do it safely, I might add, because there's a lot of people out there doing run ups and warm ups on engine what are the just the regular engine stands, like those little $50 Harbor Freight engine stands. I don't know how many videos
A,
I've seen up on
so
YouTube.
over.
Yeah.
B,
Oh
they
yes,
keep
those little
cooling.
three-legged things. They
Yes,
love to tip over if you're pushing them at half a mile an hour, much less if you have a lot of rotational mass in there revving up and revving down. So
exactly.
it's
Plus, like
yeah. So there's a safety factor
cooling.
in this built as
Yep.
well.
Yeah. Plus cooling and fuel and oil pressure, and like you'll have some gauges with it as well.
Yes.
Or and like you'll be able, the customers will be able to buy gauges and add them to it, or what.
Yep.
This anyone listening, we're still working on this, but however,
Hmm.
it'll allow you to safely test that engine, and it's going to be universal, so you can use it for all kinds of different engines before you pop it in your build. I fully
And
plan on doing this with definitely the S10 build for how I've got that truck set up. Like it's going to be awesome for checking the 6.2 before I toss it in, or
and
anything
I
else.
would stress out the testing more than, let's say, the testing of your components that you throw in there more than it is like a warm up or a break-in cycle, because the amount of some of the parts that are entering in the market now, let's say lifters for instance, you may have
Lift
some lifters that you
terrible right
think are absolutely golden, that you throw them in a build and then they are trash. They demolish a cam, and if you don't catch it in time, well, you're demolishing your entire engine, just pumping all sorts of metal through
now.
everything. So this will be allow you to catch a really really expensive mistake
Yeah.
ahead
Yes.
of time, and to go out and, let's say, send them back. So no, no, your cam is not hardened properly, or your lifters are not hardened properly,
Exactly.
which is a big issue between a lot of the Ford and the Chevy stuff going on right now. That's been outsourced to other countries, and they'll send something back that's just really
Yeah.
not should be running. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
had an issue myself with some lifters that I paid a good amount of money for that I thought were going to be good. They weren't no cheap of the line eBay lifters or nothing like that.
Yeah.
They were name brand, and they ended up demolishing a Massed Motorsport Stage 2 track package cam.
Oh.
That was, I believe, the first cam that I threw in the LS swap in my truck. And then I
Oh.
ended up having to throw a stock cam and use stock lifters back into it because of the
Yeah.
lifters demolishing that camshaft.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
But again, something like this would allow you to have it out of the vehicle where you're going to hear it better. You're going to be able to
Yep.
monitor oil pressure. You'd be able to
You'll be able
check
to
it.
work on it better. I mean, they're not built
Yeah,
like you could sit in your engine bay like you used
yeah,
to.
yeah. You'd be able to like drop the oil filter, drop oil real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Check the oil filter for metal. Check the oil for metal, stuff like that. You'd be able to health check it real quick, or disassemble it if you need to real quick. Again, a lot I probably should have known better, but I didn't realize how much it happened until I started getting into a little bit of the diesel crowd. But like how many people will like you put the head studs in and then you warm the motor up and retorque the head studs down while
Mm-hmm.
it's hot. Because then when it cools down, it literally clamps everything together. And with
Yeah.
this run stand, you'd be able to get stuff up to operating temperature and do that without it being in the vehicle where you're going to make a big mess.
Mm-hmm. And I think is that more toward the diesel crowd? Because I've actually recently
Some of the
I've been
gas stuff does it too.
okay. Because I was at something came across one of my feeds on something about Gail Banks, and I'm a big fan of his. And he
Yes.
was talking about head bolts and how anything under 1,000 horsepower diesel, he's using stock head bolts. So he's not throwing head
Yep.
studs in anything because you end up breaking the block with a head
Yeah.
stud because there's no kind of give there. And when it comes to cylinder pressure, and the stock head bolts are kind of used to be able to stretch a little bit, use the stretch that's in the head gasket, and to still have the seal. And then
Mhm.
when it's coming off the compression stroke, well, your head bolts kind of bringing everything back like a rubber band. So there's no use in using kind of some of the head studs on some of the diesel stuff
Yeah.
quite yet, unless you're pushing some crazy numbers. But
Yeah. And like most of the builds, at least I've been around, have been over the 4-digit number, so that's probably
mm.
why they're doing it. Um, I've been getting in with some rowdy stuff, but so yeah. But
I'm
again,
gonna be
like you'd
working
be
on
able,
some diesel stuff myself soon, hopefully.
yeah.
A good old
But you'd be
7.3.
Yeah, but you'd be able to use this run stand, as I said, to like get things up to temp, check for leaks, check and make sure you didn't get the wrong set of head gaskets for a notched heads on a 5.3 and they leak on you the first time you start it. Firebird.
uh,
It just happened. I
okay.
never talked to you
I
about
was like,
that.
you seem a little salty about that. Do elaborate.
Firebird's running again.
Okay.
So it's been down for a couple of years. I hurt the last motor. I spun it up too high. I think it was a mix of it was a home cut oil pan that I didn't have enough clearance between the pickup and the bottom of the pan,
Okay. So
and
you're cavitating with just it not
I
being able
think
to
so.
pull what you did.
And like
Okay.
it was fine at 6,000 RPM, but my buddies run them up to like 7,800. I'm like, oh, I'll take it up to 7. It didn't like that at all. So it
Mm-hmm.
spun number one rod bearing bad. So anyway, so that motor came out and I put it back to a factory PO1 ECU, made my own engine harness and stuff with the 57 pin circular pass through connectors for the firewall. It
Okay.
came out all right. Uh, a lot of this was a learning experience because I wanted to learn on a car that I don't really care about too much. So that way, any mistakes I made, I can learn from them and then put that knowledge towards the S10 because the S10 is my like really good build. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, the car's running again. I got the thing started up and running. First time I did this, and I'll never do it again. I got a gasket set from eBay for an LS. Didn't like the rest of the gaskets. Perfect. Like that thing does not leak an ounce of oil. The thing's
Mm-hmm.
never the thing's always leaked oil because I've always reused gaskets. Like I just replaced everything with this cheap eBay set. It was great. I
Uh-huh.
did not even think to look that the head gaskets were not set up for the notched heads. I run not
Okay.
The old motor doesn't have notched heads. The new one does. And I got it running. Like I put coolant in it, and it's dripping out of the side right where the head gaskets are toward
Why is it
brand new
leaking?
stuff. I'm like, you
Yeah.
got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So,
So what brand did you go? Would you go with the name brand off of eBay, or did you just go with okay?
so the original gasket set off eBay was like a no. Hi. Apparently, my focus is there. We go. Maybe.
Yeah, I saw you. I was
Hi.
like, my eyes messing up. There we go. I can see it.
No, my camera. I just saw it. Okay.
There we go.
So I got a kind of a no name. It's. I think it looked like it was a Mister Gasket set.
Okay.
Um, and it was probably my fault. I should have checked and make sure that the head gaskets were like set up for notched heads. I
Yep.
didn't even realize like the last engine I had in there that I was pushing some power with, like it didn't have notched heads. I've never had an LS with notched heads.
Hmm.
And sure enough, this one I didn't check had notched heads, and I used the non notched head gaskets in it, and they
Hmm.
leaked. Oh, I
Okay.
was ticked. I was
I think
so
what
mad.
I use the Felpro eBay, which I mean, you're a toss up of whether or not
So
it is Felpro, uh,
I bought.
coming off
I
of
actually
anything eBay. But
I
that's what
bought
I
a
got the head gaskets on my 6.0 right now is those multi-layer stilled, and I
yes.
did spray them with the copper coat,
So
just for sanity. But I haven't had a single lick of issues out of those.
so I run the Felpro Perma Dries. They're the blue
Mhm.
coated Felpro gaskets.
Okay. Hmm.
So that's what I normally run. I grabbed this set for this one. And I don't know if you've ever seen how like Nelson race engines glue their heads together. Like absolutely
No.
glue. Okay, I'll have to send you I'll put it in the YouTube video here and I will send you a photo on the Discord once we get done with this, probably tomorrow at this point.
Okay.
Um but anyway, they use like an aircraft sealant on the block, on the head gasket, and on the head, and they glue this sucker to the motor. Now they're pushing some serious power, but I've heard of old timers using Indian head gasket sealer.
Oh, that's a name I've heard before for the old motorcycle stuff, or
Yes.
the people using some the Honda sealant apparently has some really good technology in what they do
So
for their sealants.
I may have been ticked off, and I may have gotten 2 bottles of Indian head gasket sealant and sealed both sides of the head gasket on the motor when it went back together and glued
Okay.
everything together. It's held up to 14 pounds of
Yeah,
boost already, just fine.
there you
So
go.
whatever. So, but yeah, the Firebird's back for any of our listeners. It's I wanted to get it done so that way all the pieces were back on that car. So that way, when I start doing the other 2 builds, that like all the pieces are where they need to be and everything's separated. And I'm not crossing or changing parts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, because I've got a Silverado build next and then the S10. So,
yeah. Speaking of the S10, I sent you pictures of the cracked frame on my Dodge Ram. You're like, oh, I
yes,
just welded that back together.
I would.
Yeah. Well, I ended up. I got some. So for everybody listening that doesn't know the whole story on that one, so I LS swapped the Ram. The rear lower control, the lower control arm rear frame brace that goes from left side to right, or driver side to passenger side, that braces both sides of where the pivot point of the lower control arm on the rear side is.
Okay.
Uh, there was a brace there. I took it out whenever I swapped the truck 3-ish years ago, a little over 3 years ago. I don't know. It's been a blur at this point. And I noticed at the time, hey, it was a little spongy, but I had to take it out to fit the oil pan on the LS because I wasn't running any kind of short oil pan.
Okay.
I got some death wobble in my truck, and I was fighting that over, I want to say, like the last 6 months. And I got rack and pinion steering. It's not like an old Ford where you're just shaking violently with just the suspension and the
Yes.
steering geometry. I mean, it's a gold rack. It's a nice rack and pinion setup in the truck, so I should
Yep.
not be getting any sort of death wobble.
Wobble.
And it was violent. It was violent. You see the videos of like dashes shaking, the people just going crazy trying to hold on to the steering wheel. That was me anywhere above 50 or 55 plus. But if I
That's
got up to
bad.
70, I was golden above that. I just couldn't chronically keep above that. And if I hit the brakes hard at about 40, and let's say like a red light was coming up or somebody slammed on the brakes, it would shake violently too, and I'd have to let off the brakes and pedal back in. And I got up underneath my truck. I was like, why is this happening? I aligned my truck, and while I was aligning my truck, I looked up. I was like, whoa, there's a big crack there. I looked on the other side. Well, there's some more big cracks there. And the ears coming off of the frame that are welded on from the factory that you can bolt your lower control arms to were just cracked almost all the way up. And I got bought some 2-inch by 3-inch, 1/4-inch wall, square tubing, rectangle tubing, and I notched out a portion from my oil pan, and I ended up bolting in a new brace. I have not welded up those cracks yet because I actually want to grind out the entire crack before I throw a weld bee back into it. But yeah, that's some fun. I almost killed myself in that truck. By the time I actually put the brace back in, of like the 3 inches of weld on, I want to say the driver's side of one of those little ears coming off that you bolt the lower control arm to, of 3 inches of weld on one side, there was probably less than a 1/2 inch of weld left that wasn't cracked through. And I was still daylaying that back and forth to work.
Man.
Babying it. The moment I threw in that brace, though, it is so tight. I don't know how I've gotten this long in that truck without it, but it's phenomenal to drive now that it's got a brace in there, and it's not even welded up yet, so it's probably not even as stiff as what it can be. Oh, it's fun to drive now. It's a lot tighter in the front. It's like a little sports car on the truck.
Yeah. It's not going over.
I didn't realize how much it floated. It floated all over the road before, and I was just used to it. I was like, oh, it's a truck. I got airbags in the rear. Like those little Ride Firestone.
Yes.
Yeah. So because I was hauling my trailer, so I was like, oh, it's just floating around. I was like, no, there's a big issue there that you need to fix. I'm glad I'm getting it fixed though. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's that's scary, but it's good.
It really is.
Also, like when you
throw
send
some
me
of the pictures of the cracks up, because I sent you the pictures.
Yeah. Like I saw those, and I'm like, I would definitely, like I told you this, I would weld those up. I'd grind those down and weld them up. So,
which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting good with that little titanium. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Set the OK symbol. So hold on. Never realize how much your hand gesture moving while you're talking. I'm Italian or something, apparently. Jonathan will get a kick out of that joke. But
well, hi, Jonathan, if you're listening.
Yeah. Hi, Jonathan.
So he reached out to me about some actually work questions with a car that he was working on. So in my expert field. So
he's been doing some crazy stuff at work too. I've been seeing the amount of engine swaps he's doing out there at that shop, and that's a lot of hard work for the shop that he's in.
They're all over. Yeah. It's happening all over the industry. It's not just him for sure. It's all the brands right now. But yeah. So all right, man. I think this has been awesome. It's been a long, for anyone listening, it's been a long time since Kevin and I have talked, or a long time since we've had a podcast. So this has been great.
We talk here and there. We're just not on the podcast all the time.
Yeah. So I definitely want to, as I've said before, and I'll say again, I want to get more regular with it. I'm not going to say how regular because I can't ever keep.
Every time we throw a number out there, we miss it.
It just goes right out the window. So, but however, this has been awesome. This really has been. I am excited. And everyone's going to see like nice proper backgrounds back here. And we've gotten better equipment, which I think we may have seen this at the beginning of the podcast, but like we're definitely trying to step our game up. So I definitely I would love to get Jonathan on the next one. I've also got another buddy that wants to get on as well. His name's Dale, Dale Aaron.
Oh, okay. How many more are we going to go through? I've made a few jokes of that in the
you want me to,
in the Discord.
I have more than one Dale friend, so we can go for a little bit. All the Dales stick together. but yeah, so but yeah, this has been awesome. So if you're listening and you've made it this far, thank you. And if you have anything you want me or Kevin to talk about, or any questions, just reach out to us or get on our Discord, Facebook, email us. I'm Dale at twistedbuilds.com, and you're Kevin at twistedbuilds.com, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So email, reach out. We'll go from there. All right, man. It's nice. It's been nice. So I
Yeah,
will see you next time.
I'm happy. I'm happy we finally got together and got to do another one of these.
Exactly. This is
Yep.
awesome. So, all right, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep.
Bye.